To use the Gentle-based Auto-LipSync workflow, we are going to need three things. You're going to need Source Filmmaker, obviously. You're going to need Python 3, and you're going to need the Gentle program. To install Source Filmmaker, you can simply go to Steam, go to the store, and search Source Filmmaker. And you can install it directly through Steam. It is entirely free. To download Python, you simply go to python.org, which is the official Python website. Go to Downloads, and you have this yellow button right here, Download Python 3.8.5. You're going to want to make sure you get the most recent version. Now that we have Python downloaded, we are going to double-click the executable to run it. We are going to choose Add Python 3.8 to Path, and then we're going to keep the default settings and use the Install Now. We're going to run it as administrator, and then we let it install. When we get to this point, we're going to want to choose the Disable Path Length Limit, and now we are done. We can verify by coming down to the Windows and typing in CMD to bring up the command prompt, and if we type Python, we can see it says Python 3.8.5. So now that Python is installed and Source Filmmaker is installed, now comes the challenge of installing Gentle. It's not hard per se, but it is a bit involved, which is the primary reason for this video in the first place. So with that being said, we're going to close out of both of these, and we are going to search for lower quality Gentle. Lower quality being one word, and then if we come to the third result, lowerquality.com, and we click this, and this brings us to the page for Gentle. If you have a Mac, then that is far and away the easiest solution to run Gentle, where you hit this download a DMG, and you will simply run that. However, if you do not have a Mac and you only have a Windows machine, then it's going to be more involved. So first, we're going to choose View Source, which will load a GitHub page. We will scroll down a bit to Getting Started, and it says there are three ways to install it. First one is the pre-built Mac application. The second one is the Docker image, and the third is to compile from source. We are going to use the second option, which is use the Docker image. We're not going to use the link they provide, but instead we're going to open a new tab, and we are going to search Docker for Windows. And then we get the install Docker desktop on Windows. And you are going to want to use the Docker desktop from Windows 10 Home, which is this right here. And then this one is going to, very importantly, requires WSL2, which is beyond the scope of this particular tutorial because my computer cannot use WSL2 for reasons unbeknownst to me. In order to check if you can, you must be on Windows 10 version 2004 or higher. To see if you are, you come down here and you type in WinVer and hit enter. And it will say right here, it's Microsoft Windows version 1909. And if you are on a version older than 2004, go to a new tab, type in Windows 10 Home version 2004 installer. Then you want to go to the Download Windows 10 from Microsoft. You have the Windows 10 May 2020 update, that is version 2004. Click Update Now, and it would download an installer. You will simply run that, and then you'll get this, and this will either tell you that you cannot update, or it will give you the option to update now, in which case you will run that. I'm not going to go through that because for some reason this particular update sends my PC into a boot loop and then it has to revert the installation. So we are going to do the alternative, more involved method, which involves a virtual machine. So close out of this, do not update now, cancel update. So now we're going to sit on the Gentle tab, and I am going to walk you through setting up the virtual machine. So we're going to need to download two things for this. The first is we will come over here and we will search VirtualBox, all one word, which is the Oracle VM VirtualBox. Then we're going to want to download VirtualBox 6.1. We are running Windows, so we will use Windows hosts. And you downloads the file. We will wait for the download to finish. Now that we have VirtualBox downloaded, we are next going to download a Ubuntu distribution to install into our virtual machine. So we will come back over here, we'll open a new tab, and we will search for Ubuntu. And we'll go to the first website. We're going to download the 20.04 long-term Surface. We want Ubuntu desktop, and we want to download. And we'll do an automatic download. And this is going to take a while. It's a 2.6 gig download, so you're going to have to wait a bit. Now that we have the Ubuntu ISO downloaded, we are going to install VirtualBox. So we run the executable. Next, I am going to change the install path to D drive VirtualBox. And next, all that's fine. Ignore this warning. And yes, and install. Okay, and now it's installed. So now we're going to set it up. So finish. There we go. If you get this error, that's perfectly normal because you have to run VirtualBox as administrator. So close out of this, come over here and search virtual, right click, run as administrator, and then we'll do the same thing again. You will hit new. We're going to call this Ubuntu box. We're going to change this underscore machines and next. Now this is allocating your memory. I have 16 gigs of memory, and all things being equal, you probably want to give it at least 4 gigs of memory, which is 4096 megabytes. So that's what I'm going to do. Next, hard disk, we're going to create a virtual hard disk. Create. We're going to use a VDI, VirtualBox disk image. We're going to dynamically allocate it. So by default, it gives the box 10 gigabytes. I have 2 terabytes total, so I am going to give it 50 gigabytes. And create. And there we go. We have our box. So now we need to load the ISO onto it. Let's get it going. Let's hit start, which will boot it up. And there we go. It's going to ask you to pick the ISO. So we're going to come over here to this button, choose a optical disk file. We are going to add. And we are going to come to our downloads, and we're going to target that ISO we downloaded, open, and choose, and start. And this will install Ubuntu onto your virtual machine. Now that we've gotten to this screen, we are going to choose Install Ubuntu in English. This is perfectly fine. Continue. We want to do a normal installation. We do want to download updates. We do not care about graphics and Wi-Fi because we're only using this to run a command line program, which will be gentle. We don't need anything fancy. Continue. On this screen, we are going to want to choose Erase Disk and Install Ubuntu. Do not worry, this is not going to touch any files on your Windows computer. It will only be affecting the virtual machine that you're running within, which is currently empty, and so this would not do anything at all, which is exactly what we want. So we will choose Install Now. There we go. It's saying it's going to blank some partitions. Again, it's only your virtual machine. It's perfectly fine. Hit Continue. When you get to this screen, it doesn't really matter. Los Angeles isn't even remotely close for me, but it's good enough. Continue. And then we are going to choose your username and your password. So I'm going to go ahead and use the name
redacted.
And then it will automatically name your computer after it. It'll give you the same username. And then you go ahead and you choose a password. And since this is only a virtual machine, we're going to set it to log in automatically, and we are going to continue. And now it is finishing its installation process, and we're just going to let it do that. And now Ubuntu is done installing onto our virtual machine. It is saying that we need to restart now, so we will hit restart now, which will restart the virtual machine. Please remove the installation medium, then press enter. Just press enter, don't need to worry about anything. Okay, now that Ubuntu is up, we're just going to skip the online accounts. We're going to go past the live patch. We're going to not send system information. We're not going to turn on location services, and we're going to hit done. So now that we've got Ubuntu installed, we're going to quickly shut down the virtual machine, and we're going to set it up with something that will make it a bit easier to work with in the future. Update has been installed, issued. Do you want to install it now? Remind me later. And now we are going to come over here. We're going to hit Insert Guest Edition CD Image. There we go. We will run this. We need to put in our password. And we will let it install. Press return to close this window. There we go. And now we're going to power off / log out, power off, and then we'll shut down the virtual machine. And then we come up over here and we're going to right click, go to settings. We're going to go to storage. We're going to select this and we're going to remove the attachment. Remove, and then we're going to hit new disk, which is a new optical disk. We're going to leave empty. And then after that, we're going to come down to shared folders. We're going to hit the add new folder. As a path, we're going to choose other. And then we're going to come down to E drive, tools. We're going to make a new folder. And I'm going to call it VM share. And select folder. And we're going to choose auto mount and hit OK. There we go. And what that will do is that will allow us to share files between our Windows host machine and our Ubuntu virtual machine by way of that particular folder that we just made, which is right here, VM share. So now we're going to boot back into our Ubuntu box because we need to set up permissions. Now that we're booted back into Ubuntu, we're going to come over here to Files. And if we look right here, we have the VM shared, and if we were to click it, it says we don't have permissions. So all we need to do now is we need to press Control-Alt-T, which brings up the terminal, and then we're going to type in the command sudo add user $user vbox sf, and this is super user do add user current user VirtualBox shared folder. Okay. And it wants you to put in your password. And now that we've set those, now we need to shut down the virtual machine and boot it back up. And now that we're booted back into Ubuntu, now we can come over to Files and we can access the folder. So now that we've set up the permissions for our shared folder, it is time to get around to installing Gentle. So we are going to come to the Firefox web browser, and we are going to search Docker for Ubuntu. Install Docker Engine on Ubuntu. Okay, we've already got our prerequisites here. We've got the latest version. We're fine here. We probably don't need to do this, but we're going to be safe and do it anyways. I'm going to make this virtual machine a bit wider. Like so. So now we're going to Control-Alt-T to bring up the terminal. And we are just going to copy all of this past the $sign. And then we're going to come into the terminal, paste, and hit enter. Put in our password. We're going to be putting in our password a lot every time we sudo. We're going to need to do that. Okay, it didn't need to do anything, which is perfectly fine. Now we're going to set up Docker repositories, which is right here. And now it's just going to be a matter of more or less copy pasting each one of these lines in turn. So we're going to copy this first line, paste, and enter. And we're going to let it do its thing. Okay. And then we're going to copy this next line and paste. Do you want to continue? Yes. We're going to be doing that a fair bit as well. Do you want to continue? Yes. And be prepared for seeing a lot of command line stuff. We're going to be staring at this a lot. This is a slow install process, but luckily, only have to do it once. Okay, now we're going to run this line right here. Copy and paste. Okay, there we go. Now verify you have it for this. Oops. Copy. Paste. And there we go. The finger is right there. EBFCD88, EBFCD88, unknown Docker release. Perfect. We're good to go. And now we're going to copy this. And run that. Okay. Now we can start installing the Docker engine. So we're going to make sure that this is up to date. So we're going to run that. Okay. And now this is what will actually install Docker right here. Let's get that going. 420 meg. Yes, do continue. And we let this install. Okay, now that Docker is done, we will scroll down here past this section, and we're going to verify that the Docker engine is installed correctly by running sudo docker run hello world. And it says it can't find it locally, which means it's going to go and download it. And there it is. Hello from Docker. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. Now that we have Docker installed, we can now install Gentle. So we're going to open a new tab over here, and we're going to once again search lower quality Gentle. We could just come up over here and pull it up, but we'll just go ahead and do it over here in the Linux box. So we went to the GitHub, and right here we're going to copy this. And we're going to bring up our terminal. We're going to type in a sudo first, and then paste. So once again, as before, it's saying that it doesn't exist, so it has to download it. And I do have to warn you that this download is about 1 gigabyte in size. It is going to take a while if your internet is not particularly fast. Now Gentle is installed and running. You can see right here it says info root listening. So now we need to see what port it is listening on. It says it's listening on 8765, but because we're running this in a virtual machine, the port is actually going to be different. So we're going to Control-Alt-T to open another terminal. And if we tap netstat, it'll say that we do not have it installed. So we will sudo apt install nettools. Give our password once again. And let this install. Okay, now that we have netstat installed, we are going to sudo netstat/toolpn. And if we look right here, we will see Docker proxy is 832.768. We're going to come over to the sample subfolder of the Auto-LipSync download, and we are going to grab audio and transcript. We are going to copy them, and then we're going to go to our VM shared folder and paste them. And then if we come over to our VirtualBox and we come to the file, we can now come over to the shared folder, and there they are right now. So we're just going to copy these, and we're going to paste them into the desktop. And then if we were to minimize Firefox, we'd see them right here. So now in this terminal right here, if we do an ls, we will see that we're in the home folder. We want to cd to desktop, which gets us into the desktop folder. And then we bring Firefox back up and scroll a little bit. You'll see using Gentle, we can use this command. So we're going to copy this. We are going to paste this, but we are going to change 8765 to 32768, which is our Docker proxy right there. And now we're going to change this at words to be at transcript, and this at audio to be at sample.wav. which if we minimize, we can see it's audio.av, not sample, audio.wav, and transcript.txt. And we are going to hit enter. Okay, we can see that it worked. And now if we run the same command with two right aiming brackets and we put it into phonemes.txt, and now we can open this up. And there we go. So see, we would, you like, there you go. And that is all you need to do to set up Gentle. So to review, if you want to run Gentle outside of my toolchain, now that you've got it installed, you need to first launch into your virtual machine. You need to run VirtualBox as administrator. Once you're there, you use Control-Alt-T to bring up the terminal. Then you will use the command sudo docker run -p lower quality /gentle to start up Gentle. Once it says it's listening, you will open another terminal with Control-Alt-T. You will use the command sudo netstat-tulpn. You will search for the Docker proxy in the output and look at the port number above it, which is generally 32768. And then you will use the curl command, curl-f, quotation marks, audio equals @, and then the name of your audio file, quote, -f, quote, transcript equals @, and then the name of the text file that contains your transcript, quote, and then another quote, and it'll be http://localhost : whatever that port that netstat returned was, so 32768 in most cases, /transcriptions, ? async equals false, quote, and then bracket phonemes.txt, or whatever you want your output file to be named. Phonemes is as good as any, though. And then hit enter. You will get some feedback from the curl command running, and then at the end, you will have your output file ready to do whatever you want to do with it. And so that would be how you do it manually. Of course, my tool setup is all automated. So let's go through and let's set up the rest of that. So now we have our Auto-LipSync folder right here. So you're going to come to the SFM folder, and you're going to copy the user mod. And then you're going to go to your Steam install, wherever your source Filmmaker is. And then you're just going to paste. And there we go. Now if we open this up and go to Scripts, SFM, Main Menu, Lord Aardvark, Auto-LipSyncer, and Auto-LipSyncer Settings, that is the source Filmmaker side. And then as a final check, you can also make sure that Gentle Input Processor works and that Gentle Output Processor works. And there you go. Now it's all set up. Be sure to check the other video of how to use it to see how we actually use this program.